Author and SAT prep expert, Dr. Sean Patel.
Hey. Hello, hello. Wow. This is awesome. Hi, everyone. Hello, hello. It is Sunday, March 3rd. It's 3 p.m. Pacific time. 6 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Central. It might be a different time zone. Did something happen in the mic? Okay. It's 5 p.m. Central, and it might be a different time zone depending on the time zone that you are located in. We've got hundreds of people here in the studio audience and thousands of people online watching this event live. I'm really, really excited for today's presentation. It's my official book launch event, and on top of that, I've prepared an amazing presentation on how to help your child ace the new digital SAT and earn $100,000 college scholarships. So, my name is Dr. Sean Patel, and I will tell you guys a little bit more about myself in just a few minutes. But before I do that, I'd love for the online audience at home to introduce themselves. I'll be able to see your guys' chat from this studio here in Las Vegas. So if you could introduce yourselves in the chat, let me know whether you're a parent or a student, what grade level, as well as what part of the country you're from. Again, I want to know whether you're a parent or a student, the grade level, and what part of the country you're from. I can see your guys' chats on this huge 4K screen, so if you want to interact with me, go ahead and introduce yourselves and let me know where you're from, who's here. That'll better help me tailor my presentation. While you guys are doing those introductions, I have a few announcements for you guys. Announcement number one is technical. So if you are having any trouble logging into Zoom or seeing this in the online webinar format, we are also broadcasting today's presentation live from prepexpert.com. So just head over to prepexpert.com and you'll be able to see the live stream. Also, you can watch today's presentation on your mobile device like an iPhone or an Android. However, I wouldn't recommend it because I've got a very thorough, in-depth presentation full of graphs, charts, practice questions that might be difficult to read on a small device. So I instead recommend that you watch it on a desktop, a laptop, a larger screen, maybe airplaying it to your family TV. Always better if parents and students watch together. Announcement number two is how long is today's presentation going to be? So I have a keynote presentation that'll take me about 90 minutes to get through, and it's full of information related to college admissions, test preparation, and scholarships. It's going to be super helpful both for parents, students, educators, grandparents, as well as people who just might want some life success tips. I've got some of that here for you today, too. And then announcement number 3, the one that everyone wants to know, is today's presentation being recorded? The answer is yes. You will get a copy of today's presentation sent to your email after today we finish up here. Now, that'll be sent out probably in a day or two after we get the studio recording, and you'll get a copy of the slides as well. However, I still recommend that everyone watch this live so that you can interact with me, but more importantly, so that you get all those free bonuses, the free bonus chapters, the master classes. Those are all going out to everyone who stays until the end of today's presentation. So those are my announcements. Let's check out who's here today. Looks like we've got some parents of 9th graders, parents of 5th graders getting started, parents and students, 11th grade Texas, parent from New Jersey, 11th grade, 6th grade, 10th grade Texas, lots of Texas folks here, Denver, Central New York. Awesome. So we got people from all over the country, all different grade levels. I promise that today's presentation will be relevant, and it'll be maybe the best 90 minutes you spend learning about college admissions, scholarships, as well as test preparation. So, what exactly are you going to learn today? In today's presentation, you will learn how to help your child understand the changes and impacts of the new digital SAT. So, it's really big news, as I'm sure many of you have seen. The digital SAT is happening for the first time in the United States this coming Saturday, in about 7 days. And so we have to understand the myths around it, as well as all the changes that are happening, because it's a lot different than the paper-based SAT. I'm sure many of the students in today's presentation and webinar are going to be taking that digital SAT in a week, so hopefully I can give you some tips to ace it next week. You will also learn how to help your child learn the 5 phrases that are always incorrect on digital SAT writing. So this is going to be for those of you who have an upcoming digital SAT, digital PSAT, ACT. We'll go over a grammar-based strategy for the students. You will also learn how to help your child solve math problems without using any algebra on digital SAT math. So this will be another strategy related to the math section of the digital SAT. You will also learn how to help your child identify specific answer choices to avoid on digital SAT reading. So this is specifically for the section of the SAT that always gave me the most difficulty when I was in high school, which is passage-based comprehension. So those are going to be some of the strategies we help students with, but we also want to help the parents here today. So for the parents, we'll talk about how to win $100,000 in college scholarships before you ever enter the 12th grade. So as we all know, college is getting super expensive, tuitions keep increasing, and so I want to give you guys some strategies around scholarships, how to get big 6-figure scholarships, and this is going to be particularly helpful for parents with 8th graders, 9th graders, 10th graders, and rising 11th graders. But I haven't forgot about the rising 12th graders. So for parents with rising 12th graders, we'll go over how to win over $100,000 in college scholarships during 12th grade. As you know, most of the scholarships are going to be open to 12th graders and high school seniors. And so we will discuss how to win those scholarships here today. So that's a lot of content I'm going to get through. On top of that, I'm going to launch my brand new digital SAT book and tell you guys all about it today. So there's a lot of stuff we're going to cover. If you have another friend, another family member, another colleague or educator who you think would benefit from all of this content, Don't feel shy. Let them know to head over to prepexpert.com, and they can live stream this event. Let them know that Dr. Patel is doing it live right now on Sunday, March 3rd. And even if they show up 10, 20 minutes late, they will still be able to get most of the value from today's presentation. And I highly recommend they do that because this is the only time I'm doing this presentation. There will be no encores of this book launch. So that's what we're going to go over today. But before we do all that, I want to tell you guys a little bit about myself and how I got here. So my name is Dr. Sean Patel. And first, I'll go through kind of my academic career. It all actually started here in Las Vegas, where we are broadcasting this event from. And I grew up in my parents' family motel on Fremont Street, which isn't actually too far from here. I went to public school in Las Vegas. And if you know anything about Las Vegas, you know it's not exactly known for its excellent education system. In fact, when I was in high school, the dropout rate was about 37%, so it's close to 40%. I think Vegas now has about 23% high school dropout rate, so it's improving, but we've got a long way to go. And so people ask me, well, how did you do well in that system? Well, I was really lucky. I had parents who valued education, and so I was like many of the students who are likely here in today's webinar. What do I mean by that? I mean, I was a really good student in high school. I got straight A's. I was good in math. I was good in English. However, I was not a very good standardized test taker. You see, on the very first SAT that I ever took, I barely scored above average. And so I spent hundreds of hours in the library studying for the SAT, and eventually I was able to raise my SAT score from average to perfect, 640 points. And so that perfect SAT score, just to give you an idea, about 50 million people have taken the SAT, and only about 10,000 have gotten perfect scores. And so, I was really lucky to be one of those 10,000, but I bet you a lot of those 10,000 perfect scores are naturally good at standardized test taking. That was not my story. I learned how to become good at standardized tests. That perfect SAT score then led me to getting into some top colleges like the Ivy League, Johns Hopkins, Northwestern. I got $500,000 in college scholarships and awards, like Presidential Scholar, National Merit. But ultimately, I ended up choosing to take a full-ride scholarship to the University of Southern California's direct medical program called the BSMD program. And that was the right decision for me because I got automatic acceptance in a medical school, as well as I got paid to go to college through full tuition. And after that, I got my MBA from Yale University. After that, I went to Temple University Hospital, and I became a board-certified dermatologist, and I still practice teledermatology. And so I've been in school for a very long time. I might have been in school for longer than some of the students here in today's webinar have been alive. And so it's been a very, very long road of schooling for me. But on top of that, I've also had some entrepreneurial ambitions. When I got to college, I wanted to help other students improve their test scores to improve their own lives because I saw the major impact it had on me in terms of college and scholarships. And so I started Prep Expert, and in the very first 6-week SAT course that I ever taught, my students had an average score improvement of 376 points. So that's equivalent of taking a student from the 50th percentile and putting them in the 90th percentile, right? So going from the 50th percentile and putting them in the 90th percentile was the average score improvement for students, all right? And so after that, I had parents and students who wanted more courses. So of course, I began training other instructors to teach my curriculum, and the rest is history. Over the past 12 years at Prep Expert, We've helped over 100,000 students now improve their SAT and ACT scores, get into top colleges, and win over $100 million in college scholarships. Of course, the highlight of the company was when I went on Shark Tank a few years ago and made an investment with Mark Cuban, who has been an amazing investor, advocate, and partner for the company ever since. In the process, I've also written multiple books on test preparation, entrepreneurship, as well as personal development. And I've written 15 books at this time, and I'm really excited to release my 16th book today after the presentation live here at this book launch event, and excited to tell you guys all the more about it. So that's a little bit about me. I hope that today it will inspire you to go on your own academic, entrepreneurial journey for your students. But before we do that, let's first understand the impacts of this new digital SAT. I want to clear up some myths about it, tell you about the changes that are happening, and hopefully everyone will be more at ease with the new digital SAT after. So let's start off with a quiz, because I am, after all, the prep expert. What is the answer to this question? Are SAT scores still important? Go ahead and type into the chat what you think the answer to this question is. Is it A, no, the media told me SAT scores are not important anymore? Is it B, no, colleges are now test optional, so SAT scores don't matter? Is it C, yes, but scores only affect scholarships, not college admissions? Or is it D, yes, SAT scores still impact college admissions and scholarships? Go ahead and type into the chat what you all think is the answer to this question. Interesting responses from everyone online. So almost everyone is saying D. I see some people saying C earlier, but almost everyone's saying D. So we got a smart audience here for this book launch event. The answer is D. Yes, SAT scores still impact college admissions and scholarships. So, who remembers during the pandemic when there were so many media articles going around that totally dismissed the importance of the SAT, right? They used to say SAT and ACT scores are no longer important because colleges are going test optional, right? If I had a nickel every time someone sent me an article like that. Type a yes in the chat if you remember those articles. Raise your hand in the studio if you remember those articles. Everyone remembers those articles, right? All right. Well, let's see what the media has to say now. This is in the week. Maybe we were wrong about the SAT. In CNN, the SAT and ACT haters might have it all wrong. In Bloomberg, colleges should bring back testing requirements. In the Harvard Crimson, which is Harvard's newspaper, throwing away information, Harvard's test optional policies face expert criticism. In the Daily Princetonian, which is Princeton's newspaper, for more socioeconomic diversity at Princeton, going test optional is the wrong place to start. In CBS News, Yale joins other top colleges in again requiring SAT scores, saying it will help poor applicants. And then this landmark cover story in the New York Times. The misguided war on the SAT. Colleges have fled standardized tests on the theory that they hurt diversity. That's not what the research shows. So this is a really important article that I encourage everyone to read because it shows all of the research and data that is counterintuitive to what everyone thought. You know, all the colleges and everyone thought removing test scores would actually help underprivileged and low-income students. And what they found was it had the exact opposite effect. And intuitively it makes sense, right? Because if you remove test scores, what are you going to value more? A lot of the times it's going to be extracurricular activities. And who can afford expensive summer programs, sports like golf and water polo, and starting nonprofits? It's typically going to be wealthier students and families. And so, does everyone now understand why you shouldn't trust the media for your college admissions information? Type a yes in the chat if that makes sense. Raise your hand in the studio audience if that makes sense. Is that clear to everybody? Everyone's got it? Awesome. So, now that everyone knows the importance of standardized tests, let's talk about 3 key reasons that your student, I'm seeing lots of yeses from around the world, so that's very cool. So now that everyone got that, let's go over 3 key reasons that your student should take specifically the digital SAT. Key reason number 1 is that SAT scores still impact college admissions. You see, acceptance rates at almost every test optional college are significantly higher for students who submit test scores than for students who do not submit test scores, okay? And so let me show you a chart here from the Daily Pennsylvanian. Median SAT scores have all Ivies after test optional implementation. So what this chart shows is that for every Ivy League university, Harvard, Cornell, Brown, all of them, the median SAT scores actually went up after test optional implementation. In fact, they're now almost all over 1,500, which means that you need to score in the 99th percentile to even have a shot at getting into the Ivy League. So, I know the counter argument everyone's going to say, well, of course the median SAT scores are higher because only the students with high scores are submitting their scores. Okay, well then how do you explain this study from the Compass Education Group on the admissions advantage for submitters of test scores? This study is they looked at test optional colleges and they were students who had test scores and students who did not have test scores. And this is at very good universities, Emory, Notre Dame, USC. And what they found was almost every university that's test optional has a higher acceptance rate for students who have test scores versus students who do not have test scores. In fact, at many universities, it actually gives you a 2 times higher chance of getting in. And this is only for colleges that publish the data, okay? Most universities don't publish their data. So I'm willing to bet that the acceptance rates at those universities looks even higher for students who have test scores because they're hiding it, right? And I challenge the parents and students here in today's webinar, ask college admissions officers, what's the acceptance rate last year for your students who submitted test scores and for students who did not submit test scores? And I bet you they will not tell you. So, does everyone understand why test optional isn't really test optional? Does that make sense? Type a yes in the chat. Raise your hand in the studio if that's making sense. All right. I'm seeing lots of yeses, lots of hands raised, so that's great. Perfect, thank you. So then, let's go over reason number 2. SAT scores still impact scholarships. So if your student does not have a test score, you will not be considered for billions of dollars in scholarships from colleges and private companies. So everyone forgets about how expensive college tuition costs are. It's about $140,000 to $200,000, depending on if you're going in-state, out-of-state, private, public, but it's very, very expensive. So we got to reduce college costs, but if you don't have a test score, you're not going to be able to do that. And I know at University of California, and all the Californians watching are probably thinking, well, we're University of California. We're not test optional, we're test blind, right? And so let's just read the fine print on University of California's website. Test scores could still be considered for other purposes, such as course placement, certain scholarships, and eligibility for the statewide admissions guarantee. Huh. That's interesting. I thought University of California is test blind, but then on their website they say they consider test scores for scholarships. And I'm picking on the University of California, but this happens at hundreds of universities across the nation where they will not give your student or consider your student for scholarships unless they have a test score. On top of that, there's tons of private companies out there that give merit-based scholarships to students with high SAT and ACT scores that your student will not be able to be eligible for if they don't have a test score. So I personally think that's even a bigger reason to take the SAT and ACT as scholarships. Does that make sense? Type a yes in the chat if scholarships make sense, and raise your hand in the studio if that makes sense. Awesome. Seeing lots of hands raised, lots of yeses coming through in the chat. Perfect. So then let's talk about reason number 3. So, reason number 3 you should take the SAT is the resurgence of standardized testing requirements. Many universities have already reinstated standardized testing for admission due to worse outcomes for both students and colleges. So, let's talk a little bit about grade inflation, right? I know inflation is always in the news. Everyone's talking about how high inflation is, but no one's talking about grade inflation. You see, there's been so much grade inflation in the high schools over the past 20 years that now 47% of all high schoolers graduate with an A average. That's almost half of all students have a 4.0 GPA. That's crazy because parents, do you guys remember when you were in high school how hard it was to get an A? You had to be an exceptional, right? A was exceptional. Now A is average. So if every student applying has an A average, how can the universities tell the students apart to determine who gets in versus who doesn't get in? And the answer is they can't. And that's why universities like Yale, MIT, Dartmouth, Georgetown, Purdue, Georgia Public Universities, and dozens more are starting to reinstate standardized tests because they're seeing the data and they're making a data-driven decision that this is better for the students, it's better for the colleges, and they're constantly bringing it back. It seems like there's a new university every single week in the news reinstating standardized test score. I think Yale just did it last week, right? And so does that make sense on the resurgence of standardized testing requirements? Type a yes in the chat, raise your hand in the studio. Awesome. So I'm seeing a lot of hands raised, a lot of yeses. Okay, so I think now everyone understands the importance of standardized tests. So now let's talk about the digital SAT itself, since it's coming up on Saturday. I know a lot of students and a lot of parents are kind of worried about it, right? So let's talk about it. First, I want to break 3 common myths that I keep hearing from parents and students. Myth number 1 is that my child will be able to take the digital SAT at home, right? You would think because it's an online test, you could take it at home. That would be really nice, right? You could have ChatGPT open in the background, answering all your questions. You get a perfect score. No, that's not how it works. So you got to go to an approved testing center with a proctor. You're just taking it on a laptop or a computer rather than with a paper and pencil. Myth number 2 is the digital SAT will have the same content as the paper-based SAT. So I keep hearing this from parents and students, oh, it's just on a computer now, right? It's the same test. No, there's totally updated content, updated question types, format, and a new adaptive testing structure, which I'll talk about in a few minutes. Myth number 3. My child struggles with online tests, so the digital SAT will be hard. I keep seeing this from parents and students. They're super worried and fearful about a digital exam. So I'm going to need a whole table to break this myth about the exam. So let's compare the old paper-based SAT against the new digital SAT. First, let's look at total testing time. So the old paper-based SAT was about 3 hours long. The new digital SAT is just 2 hours and 14 minutes long. So it's almost a full hour shorter. And by the way, parents, in today's presentation, the SAT used to be 4 hours when you used to take it. Now students have just a 2-hour exam. Super nice for students. Number of questions. The old paper-based SAT was 154 questions. Parents, your version was probably over 200 questions. This new digital SAT is just 98 questions. It's the first SAT ever under 100 questions. Again, super nice for students taking the digital SAT. Time per question. So if your student struggles with timing, on the old paper-based SAT, you had an average question time of about 1 minute and 10 seconds. Now you have about 1 minute and 22 seconds. So you have an extra 10 or 15% more time per question. And by the way, ACT test takers, you only have 49 seconds per question. So you have more time than ever per question on the new digital SAT. What about math? So on the math section of the old paper-based SAT, there used to be a no calculator section. On the new digital SAT, the calculator is allowed on all sections, and there's even a digital calculator in case you forget your calculator on test day. On the writing section, so old paper-based SAT, you'd have separate writing sections. Some even had an essay. This new digital SAT, the writing grammar questions are combined with the reading modules, and so there's fewer questions related to grammar and writing. What about the reading section? This is, I know everyone remembers those hard reading passages. They're like super long, 500 to 750 words with multiple questions per passage. Guess what? On the new digital SAT, super short passages, 50 to 150 words, just one question per passage. So it's going to be really nice if students struggled with passage-based reading in the past. And there's no more of those weird, obscure SAT vocabulary words either. So this is going to be the most student-friendly version of the SAT ever. So you might be wondering, well, Dr. Patel, does that mean it's easy? Well, I would say the new digital SAT is easier, but it's not necessarily easy, okay? And the reason for that is because it's an adaptive test, okay? So what exactly is an adaptive test? That means that the first modules will basically assess your students' baseline performance level, and then based on those answers, the second modules will adapt their difficulty level to your students' skill level. This means that if you do well in the first module, the second module will have harder questions. The adaptive test is able to calculate an accurate score with fewer questions. That's why it only has 98 questions, which is really nice. But you have to remember the SAT, after all, is a standardized test based on a curve. So if it is easy for most students, you need to answer more questions correctly, and there is less room for error in order to get a high score. So, does that make sense? Does everyone now understand the changes and impacts of the new digital SAT? Go ahead and type a yes in the chat. Raise your hand in the studio if that all makes sense. Everyone's clear on that? Awesome. So I'm seeing lots of yeses in the chat and lots of hands raised here in the studio. So now I want to give you guys a few strategies on how to get a high score on the digital SAT. It's going to be super helpful for students who have an upcoming digital SAT. Maybe you're taking the digital PSAT in the fall. Maybe you're taking the ACT. A lot of this stuff will work as well. And parents, just see if you can follow along with your students. So the first strategy I want to cover is learn 5 phrases that are always incorrect on digital SAT writing. So these are the grammar-based questions of the digital SAT. So this is something that I developed, and I call it the 5 kiss of death phrases, okay? This is something we teach our students at Prep Expert. 5 kiss of death phrases. What does that mean? That means that if you see any of these phrases in an answer choice on a grammar-based question on the digital SAT, you can automatically mark that answer choice as incorrect. Why? Because these phrases are the kiss of death. They're never right, okay? So what are those 5 phrases? Well, the first phrase is the word being. If your child sees the word being on an answer choice, they should mark it as incorrect. It's not the right answer. Second phrase is the phrase is why or is because. The third phrase is there is or there are. The fourth phrase is it is. And the fifth word is very. Okay, so these are the 5 kiss of death phrases. Again, don't worry about having to write these all down or this table. You'll get a copy of today's webinar recording and slides sent to your email later. But these are the 5 kiss of death phrases. So let me show you how that works on a real digital SAT grammar problem. So what do you notice about answer choice B? Well, it has the kiss of death phrase, "it is." Therefore, B is incorrect. What do you notice about answer choice C? It has the kiss of death phrase, "there are." Therefore, C is not the right answer. What about answer choice D? It has the kiss of death phrase, "being." Therefore, answer choice D is not correct. So what is the correct answer? A, yes, thank you. So A is the correct answer. Very nice, people at home too, typing in A. And of course, this is not going to work on every single question where you're going to get a bunch of kiss of death phrases, but this is a super helpful strategy for many questions on the grammar sections of the digital SAT. It'll help your student narrow down the answer choices and get to the correct answer more quickly. So let's talk a little bit about high school English. Type in the chat, has your student learned these phrases in high school English? Have they learned the 5 kiss of death phrases? Yes, no. What about studio audience? Yes, no. Yes? I see lots of no's. Okay, so my guess is most students have not been taught this in high school. So, it's not, English teachers do not teach your student to ace the digital SAT, and there's nothing wrong with that. They don't teach towards the exam. But that means that your child must learn these strategies outside of high school. You cannot depend on your high school English teachers to get your student ready for the writing or the reading sections of these standardized tests. Does that make sense to everyone? Can everyone type a yes in the chat if that made sense, that strategy? And raise your hand in the studio if you guys were able to follow along with the 5 kiss of death phrases. Awesome. Perfect. So, someone's asking, can I forward this recording to my kid's English teacher? Don't do that, please, for my sake. I don't want to get in trouble. Let's go over math before I get in trouble by all the English teachers. Let's go over math. So solve math problems without algebra on digital SAT math. So I want to give you guys a math strategy that will be helpful for you on the digital SAT, digital PSAT, ACT, etc. So here's an example of a math problem your student would encounter. It'll say 2x squared plus 6x is equal to 20. You could totally solve this using traditional algebra, and there's nothing wrong with that. I'm sure many of the students in today's presentation, the thousands here logged in, you guys could probably solve that very easily using factoring quadratic algebra, but me and your parents probably haven't done algebra in a very long time. So I'm going to show you a prep expert strategy that we teach our students called TAC. And you can solve algebra questions on standardized tests using this strategy. What is TAC? TAC means test answer choices, okay? What does that mean? Test answer choices means to substitute the answer choices back into the original problem, okay? And so what you're going to do is you're going to test each answer choice with the original algebraic expression. And all you're going to do is test to see which answer choice works. Typically, you can use this strategy, TAC, when variables are in the problem and numbers are in the answers, okay? What do you notice about this question? There's variables in the problem, there's a bunch of x's, and then there's numbers in the answer choices, right? So what are we going to do? We're going to test answer choice A and see if 2 works in the original problem, 2x squared plus 6x. Well, what do you know? 2 times 2 squared plus 6 times 2 is equal to 20. So we're done. That's our answer. A is the answer, because when you plug in 2 for x, it gives you 20. Now, we got super lucky, of course, in that the first answer choice that we plugged in worked, but you could always plug in B and C and D, and you would see that none of them give you 20. Only answer choice A does. But notice how we used no algebra to solve that problem. All we did was we tested the answer choice, we plugged it back into the original expression. So let's talk a little bit about high school math. Has your student learned this strategy in high school algebra? Maybe some of you have learned this in algebra, but I'm curious to know, type in the chat, yes or no, have you learned plugging in the answer choices in high school algebra? All right, so I see some yeses, some nos, so a good decent chunk of you have, so that's great. Test answer choices allows you to bypass traditional algebra on SAT math problems. So many algebra teachers will not teach your student this. Why? Because it takes advantage of the multiple choice nature of the digital SAT, which is why algebra teachers typically don't give your student multiple choice tests, right? It's very rare that your algebra teacher in high school is going to give you a multiple choice test because you could just plug in the answers and skip doing all the algebra. You don't need to show any work, you don't need to do anything. But guess what? 75 to 80% of the digital SAT math section is multiple choice, which means that you need to take advantage of the answer choices being right in front of you and plug them into the original problem, right? So type a yes into the chat if that math strategy made sense, especially to the parents who might not have seen algebra in a while. Did that math strategy make sense? In the studio audience, could you raise your hand? Let me know if that made sense. All right, I'm seeing lots of yeses come through. And I saw lots, I see some no's, I'm sorry, but I see lots of yeses come through and lots of hands raised. So let's go over reading. How many parents and students here have the most trouble with the reading section? You know, the passage-based reading section where you have to read a passage, answer a question. I know that was always my most difficult section. I could never get my score up on that section. So I want to give you guys a tangible strategy that will help you with that section. So we're going to identify specific answer choices to avoid on digital SAT reading, okay? So what you want to do, and what I found has worked super well for this new digital SAT with my students, is avoiding extreme ly adverbs in SAT reading, okay? So what are extreme ly adverbs? Well, answers with extreme adverbs are going to be incorrect on digital SAT reading. An adverb, by the way, is just something that modifies a verb, an adjective, or another adverb. And typically, adverbs end in the suffix ly. Extreme adverbs signal a significant degree or extent of something, okay? And so answers that contain extreme adverbs are often incorrect. So here's a table of a bunch of extreme ly adverbs that are typically going to be incorrect. It's words like significantly, severely, substantially, deeply. What do you guys notice? The ly's, significant degrees. I'm not saying all adverbs, just extreme ones, okay? And again, don't worry about having to write this whole table down. You'll get a copy of the webinar and a copy of the slides later to your email. And so let's take a look actually at a real SAT reading practice problem. What do you notice about answer choice A? It has the extreme ly adverb overly. So answer choice A is out. What about answer choice C? It has the extreme ly adverb substantially. So answer choice C is incorrect. What about answer choice D? It has the extreme ly adverb broadly. And so what's our answer? B, right? And so all of the other answer choices had extreme ly adverbs, so they're not going to be the correct answer, right? And so does that make sense to everyone? Everyone understood that strategy? And again, you're not going to learn this in high school English. It's not something your teacher teaches you. They don't teach towards the test, but it's why you must learn these strategies outside of high school. Does that make sense to everyone? Type a yes in the chat and raise your hand in the studio if that makes sense. All right. So I'm seeing lots of yeses, lots of hands raised. Perfect. So now we covered the digital SAT strategies for the students. Now let's talk a little bit to the parents. Because parents, I know your biggest concern is likely college costs, right? As I mentioned, student debt is getting close to $2 trillion. How are we going to reduce our cost of college? Well, this check right here on the screen would be really nice, right? Your student's name, $100,000 check, full scholarship to their dream college. So now let's talk a little bit about scholarships, some strategies to get them, and what you can do. So first, I want to talk about how you can win $100,000 in college scholarships before you ever enter the 12th grade. So how many parents do we have here who are parents of 8th graders, 9th graders, 10th graders, or rising 11th graders? Yeah, raise your hand in the studio audience, as well as type a yes in the chat with the grade level, if you can, on if your student is 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th. Maybe you have a younger student even. This is going to be super helpful for all of you. Don't worry, rising 12th graders, I got something for you guys as well. But first, let's focus on the younger students. So, all right, awesome. So you guys got to pay attention then. I see lots of people, 7th grade, 8th grade, 9th grade, 10th grade, 11th grade. So the PSAT is your golden ticket, okay? So what is the PSAT? Well, the PSAT stands for the preliminary SAT, which is basically just the pre-SAT. It's an easier version of the real SAT. Why is this your golden ticket? Well, because the PSAT is also known as the NMSQT, which stands for the National Merit Scholarship Qualifying Test, okay? So what does that mean? Well, that means that if your child scores high on the PSAT, they will qualify for national merit, okay? What are the benefits of being national merit? Well, benefit number one is it's an excellent award to put on your child's college application as well as on their summer program applications. Benefit number two is about half of the National Merit semifinalists will receive a $2,500 scholarship to any university or college that they would like to go to. But benefit number three, and this is the biggest benefit in my opinion, is that there are over 100 colleges that offer full tuition, half tuition, and quarter tuition scholarships just for being national merit, okay? You don't have to apply separately. They'll just automatically give you a six-figure scholarship just because you're national merit, which is super nice, right? And so it's really important to score high on this exam. Now, these colleges are not just giving you six figures in scholarships out of the goodness of their heart. They're doing it because the more national merit students that they have come to their university, it helps them in the college ranking. So it helps them too, all right? And so here's the catch. Of course, there's a catch, right? What's the catch? Well, the catch is you can only take the PSAT for national merit one time, okay? It's not like the SAT or the ACT that you can keep retaking to get a higher score. The PSAT is a one-shot deal. When does that happen? That happens in fall of 11th grade, so fall of your junior year. So that means rising 12th graders, there are no more chances to get national merit. I'm sorry, but we'll talk about other scholarships for you guys later, just not national merit. Rising 11th graders, you must focus scoring high on the PSAT this fall and try to get national merit, okay? Rising 10th graders, you can take the PSAT 10 for practice, okay? The PSAT 10 does not count towards national merit. It's just a practice exam. It'll give you a good sense of your baseline, though, and how high you need to get for national merit. What about 8th and 9th graders? Well, you can take what's called the PSAT 8-9 for practice. Again, doesn't count, but it will help you get a baseline for how high you need to score. So, everyone probably wants to know, how high does my student need to score on the PSAT in order to qualify for national merit? Well, the PSAT is out of 1520, okay? It's not out of 16, out of 1520. And the cutoff score depends upon the state in which you live. If you live in an academically competitive state like California, then you need to score about a 1580 out of 1520. But if you live in a less academically competitive state, like where I'm from in Nevada, you only need to score about a 1380 out of 1520 in order to qualify for national merit. Now, these cutoff scores can change year to year depending on how well students your year perform on the PSAT, but usually they don't change more than 10 or 20 points from what you see on here on the screen. And if you can't see it, don't worry, you can look at the slides later. But that's basically what you need to shoot for, okay? But what can you get? Well, like I said, there's over 100 colleges that offer national merit scholarships. I just put about 50 of them into this table for you guys, but you can see there's some amazing colleges. My alma mater, University of Southern California, that'll give you guys scholarships worth $200,000, $129,000, $110,000, $100,000, all before you ever get to the 12th grade. So that means with 1 2-hour PSAT exam, that your student can get dozens of $100,000 college scholarship offers. Parents, if your employer told you that we're going to give you an exam in the fall, and if you score well on this exam, we're going to give you a $100,000 bonus, would you study for that exam? Yes, I would too, right? And so that's what I recommend for students. Because the digital PSAT is almost identical to the digital SAT, it's just a little bit easier. I recommend starting your students' digital SAT prep in 8th grade, 9th grade, 10th grade, so that by the time you get to 11th grade, they will be ready to knock the PSAT out of the park, get national merit, get those six-figure scholarships. And it's never made sense to me why so many high school counselors often give the advice, don't worry about SAT prep until spring of 11th grade. Well, if you wait until spring of 11th grade, you've already missed fall of 11th grade's PSAT, right? So does that make sense to everyone? Everyone understands the importance of the PSAT? Oh, and this will be good for my family here. This is my newspaper cutout. Local National Merit Scholarship winners announced. There's my name, Sean Patel from Clark High School. I thought I was a celebrity, but no. Does that make sense to everyone? Is that good on PSAT importance? Everyone, it's good. Raise your hand in the studio. Say yes in the chat if it makes sense. All right. So now, don't worry, rising 12th graders. I know a lot of rising 12th graders are bummed because you said, oh, I didn't get national merit. What am I going to do? You can still get six figures in scholarships. So, how do you win $100,000 in college scholarships during 12th grade? Well, there are really two keys to scholarships for that. Scholarship key number one is to apply for local scholarships, okay? So you want to apply for scholarships that are only open to students in your city or in your state, okay? Why is this so important? Well, because if you think about national scholarships like the Gates Millennium Scholarship or the GM Scholarship, they're going to have students from the entire nation applying. So they often have over 100,000 applications. So that means it's trying to win the lottery. It's not going to work out so well. Instead, you want to apply for local scholarships that are only open to students in your city or in your state. Why? Because the other 49 states can't apply. That means you have a 50 times higher chance of winning because there's going to be far fewer applications. And when you have far fewer applications to a scholarship, you have a much higher chance of winning, okay? And so I know everyone's going to ask, well, how do you find local scholarships? Well, what you're going to do is go to Google and type in local scholarships in your area. So let's say that you live in, or your family lives in Princeton, New Jersey. You're going to type in scholarships for students in New Jersey, or scholarships for students in Princeton, New Jersey. And you're going to start finding dozens and dozens and dozens of scholarships to apply for. Now, one clarification I want to make, local scholarships does not mean you need to go in-state for college. Some local scholarships will say you have to go in-state only, but many will let you use them anywhere in the United States, okay? Here's my list of top 10, what I call national local scholarships you can win. This is a term I just made up, but what it means is there are many scholarships out there that are open to the entire nation, okay, like Coca-Cola, first one on the screen here. And they're open to the entire nation, but they reserve a certain number of scholarships for every single state, which means you're really only competing against the students in your state, which means you have a much higher chance of winning. Again, don't worry about writing these all down right now. You'll get a copy of the slides in the webinar recording later to go through, add these to your list to apply for in 12th grade. Scholarship key number 2. Now, before I talk about scholarship key number 2, did scholarship key number 1 make sense? Type a yes in the chat, raise your hand in the studio if that made sense on local scholarships. Awesome. So then let's talk about scholarship key number 2, which is merit-based colleges. So you need to apply to colleges that offer merit-based scholarships, okay? And it is a mistake if you only apply to Ivy League universities. And we see parents and students make this mistake all the time. They get really obsessed with going to Harvard or Princeton or Yale. And the problem with that is Ivy League universities do not offer merit-based scholarships, okay? Which means that if your family does not qualify for need-based aid, you get $0 from the Ivy League universities, okay? And they're gonna expect you to pay $60,000, $70,000, $80,000. I don't know what the tuition is anymore. It seems like it goes up $10,000 every year. And they're not gonna give you any financial aid, okay? That's why you must apply to colleges that offer merit-based colleges, okay? Colleges that actually value all the hard work that your student has been doing over the past few years. Most of the time, there is no separate application for merit-based scholarships, okay? That means that high school seniors, like 12th graders, that have good grades, good test scores, and good extracurriculars are just automatically offered half tuition and full tuition scholarships just like that. You don't have to apply separately, you just get it. And they reward you for all your hard work for 4 years. Super nice, right? And so what are some colleges, some top colleges that offer full tuition merit-based scholarships? Well, there are, I just put 50 top ones in this table for all of you to go through later, not right now, but later you guys can go through this when you get the slides and the recording. But you'll see there's really good universities, okay, like Duke, Johns Hopkins, Vanderbilt, University of Notre Dame. And this is actually my story. I got into the Ivy League, and the Ivy League said, we're going to give you $0, and you're going to have to, pay us all this money. So I then also got into USC, and they gave me a full ride scholarship. So I said, I'm going to take my talents to Southern California, and that was the best decision that I made because I didn't have to go into any student debt. They paid for my tuition, my housing, my books, and that's really the dream that I want to create for many of the students and parents watching today's presentation. And one thing that I'm really, really proud of at Prep Expert is we've already helped over the past decade students win over $100 million in scholarships. It's probably the thing I'm most proud of is helping students reduce their college costs and in many cases eliminate them altogether. All right, so here's some examples. Here's a student who got a $350,000 scholarship from the University of Virginia. Another student who got a $250,000 scholarship from Vanderbilt. Here's another student who got a $240,000 scholarship from Boston College. Another student who got a $120,000 scholarship from the University of Southern California. And another student who got a $100,000 scholarship from Notre Dame. And what I'm really excited about is our next mission at Prep Expert, which is we're on a $1 billion scholarship mission. So $100 million was a great milestone, but over the next decade, we want to help students win over $1 billion in college scholarships. And so, this is a really, really important mission for me. And I know it sounds kind of impossible, right? $1 billion, like, are you really going to do that? Well, on the last 5 slides, I just showed you 5 students who won $1 million in college scholarships. And with what I'm going to launch today, I believe it's going to help 1 million students. So if you do the math, and just a small percentage of those 1 million students end up winning half tuition and full tuition scholarships, we're going to far surpass $1 billion. And maybe $1 billion scholarship mission is actually too small. So is everyone excited to learn about what I'm about to launch today to achieve that $1 billion scholarship mission? Type a yes in the chat and raise your hand in the studio if you want to know what we're going to do today. Awesome. Thank you. I see lots of yeses, lots of hands raised. Perfect. So let me tell you guys, before what I'm going to launch today, how I got here. So about 13 years ago, I put together a book proposal for the first SAT prep book ever by a student who raised his own score from average to perfect. I thought I had amazing strategies, and I really wanted to share it with the world, so I put together a book proposal, and I pitched it to 100 literary agents and publishers, people at Penguin and Random House, and I thought it was going to be a huge winner. But instead, I got 100 rejections. I had agents and publishers who told me, the SAT prep market is too competitive, you don't have a platform to write such a book, and no one thought it was going to work. And so I took all that curriculum, everything I was working on, and I decided to turn it into some courses at Prep Expert. And then eventually, McGraw-Hill, the world's largest education publisher, saw what I was building at Prep Expert, saw the student score improvements, and 12 years ago, I released my first SAT prep book. It was called SAT 2400 in just 7 steps. And this was back when the SAT was out of 2400 for like 8 years. But this book ended up going #1 on Amazon for SAT prep. It sold over 50,000 copies, and it became known as one of the best books to prep for the 2400 version of the SAT. And so it helped prove out my thesis that students really do want to learn from another student who did it himself. And so since then, I've written 15 books on test prep, SAT prep, ACT prep, entrepreneurship, and self-development. And many of those books have gone #1 on various Amazon categories. And over the past decade, I've dedicated more than 10,000 hours to creating the most effective test preparation content for students. And if you know anything about Malcolm Gladwell's 10,000-hour rule, you know that it takes 10,000 hours to become an absolute master at any craft, whether it's sports, music, academics, etc. I believe I've achieved that now with test prep. And so with what I'm about to launch today, I believe that it's going to, as I mentioned, reach 1 million students over the next 10 years. It's going to be known as the best SAT prep book in the industry for the digital SAT. And when people see that 10 years from now, they will probably call me lucky. And, they'll write it off as I was just lucky. But they didn't see the 100 rejections, or the 12 years, or the 15 books, or the 10,000 hours, or the lonely nights at the library studying for the SAT in high school, or the 12-hour writing days I spend today writing SAT prep content. They'll just call it lucky. But when someone tells you you're lucky, tell them that luck is only where preparation meets opportunity. And so it's with all of that preparation that I'd like to take this opportunity to present my best SAT prep book ever. It's called Prep Expert Digital SAT Playbook: Winning Strategies to Achieve Your Dream Score. Does everyone here want to hear some more about it? Type a yes in the chat if you want to hear about this new book, what's inside, how you can get it, and all the free bonuses we have today to go along with it, just for you guys who came to the book launch event live for me. Everyone's excited to learn more? Awesome. So thank you. I'm seeing lots of yeses just fly down. Awesome. So you guys are excited as I am. Perfect. So I'll tell you a little bit more about it then. So, Prep Expert Digital SAT Playbook has hundreds of strategies and tips in the book that have helped hundreds of thousands of students in the past on previous versions of the SAT score high, get into top colleges, win over $100 million in scholarships, and I'm super excited because now it's your students' turn if they're in high school. All right, and so it's Not just the old SAT book, though. It's fully updated for the new digital SAT. We talked a lot today about how different the new digital SAT is versus the paper-based SAT. So I've fully updated this playbook to prepare students for the new digital format, the unique question types, new strategies, the adaptive testing structures, and all of the new content. So today is the official launch date. It's Sunday, March 3rd, and it's the first day you can get all versions of this playbook. You can get it as a hardcover, as a paperback, as an audiobook, as well as an ebook. All right? And so what exactly is inside? Well, there are hundreds of prep expert strategies and tips, including many of which you saw today, by the way, the kiss of death phrases, the extreme ly adverbs, test answer choices. But it will also teach you things like the best digital SAT questions to practice with, techniques to spot grammar errors on SAT writing, how to increase passage reading speed on SAT reading if you struggle with the reading section, all of the must-know key concepts for SAT math. We also teach a lot of test taking and study skills for all academic exams, so not just the SAT. I actually dedicate over 20 strategies called general prep expert strategies because I feel like most teachers don't teach your student how to study. So I teach them study habits, how to study effectively, and how to ace any standardized test using this one book. We go over the secret to success, not only for the SAT, but life beyond, because I don't just want your student to be successful on the SAT, I want them to be successful in all aspects of their academic and future careers. What's really cool about Prep Expert Digital SAT Playbook is the foreword is written by Prep Expert's investor, Mark Cuban, and he said, when you win those scholarships thanks to this book, let us know at Prep Expert. Your victories are our victories. I would love to hear about it. And Mark is serious. Here's an example of a student who tweeted him that they took Prep Expert and they got a full ride to NYU, and then he retweeted it to his 5 million followers. So who knows, if you get a scholarship and you shout out Mark Cuban, maybe he will make you famous on social media. So how much does it cost? Well, the retail price of Prep Expert Digital SAT Playbook for the hardcover is $49.99. For the paperback is $39.99. For the audiobook is $29.99. And for the ebook is $9.99. But I have good news. Because all of you came to today's book launch event and joined me live, you don't have to pay those retail prices. We are celebrating the book launch with 35% off all of our books in every format. So you get 35% off to celebrate the book launch, which means that brings the hardcover down to just $32, the paperback down to about $25, the audiobook down to about $19, and the ebook down to just around $6. So you can save 35% on all versions of the book at prepexpert.com. Head over to prepexpert.com, grab your direct link for that 35% off offer. Now, this promotion, though, does expire on Saturday, March 9th, which actually happens to be the day of the first digital SAT, which is happening in about 7 days. So you have about 7 days to head over to prepexpert.com and get 35% off all versions of the book. If you wait past Saturday, and it should be easy to remember because it's the first digital SAT, then you'll have to pay full price and you won't get that 35% off offer. Now I have more good news. More good news, huh? So we've got 35% off not only our books, but also our courses. So I know many parents and students would like to not just have the book, but actually enroll in a Prep Expert course with a 99th percentile instructor to take you through all the content, interact, ask your questions, go through practice exams, and do all of that. So we're not just offering 35% off all our books, but we're also offering 35% off all Prep Expert courses and tutoring. And so this is just to celebrate book launch. We've launched our biggest sale of the year on our digital SAT courses. So again, these are live online, taught by top 1% tutors. These are not some video courses or some books that your student will never go through. These are interactive with real instructors who are awesome. Many of our courses, our 6-week courses, 7-week courses, 8-week courses, have a 200-point score improvement guarantee. So if your student doesn't improve 200 points, we have a 100% money-back guarantee, which is awesome and risk-free. On top of that, you also have 35% off founder SAT courses. So I know that many of you are looking to take a course with me, Dr. Sean Patel. So we have something called the Founder SAT courses, where I teach live online digital SAT courses, as well as some video courses if your student would like to go through at their own pace. We also are offering digital PSAT courses, so 4-week online summer courses taught by top 1% tutors. So we talked about how important the PSAT is today, so we offer online courses for those. Also ACT courses. I know many students take both the SAT and the ACT. So you have the same formats, 6-week, 8-week, live online courses with 4-point score improvement guarantees on those. We offer one-on-one tutoring. So maybe you don't want a group class, but you want one-on-one tutoring to go over your students' specific weak areas. We offer tutoring in over 100 subjects or tests, SAT, ACT, PSAT, AP exams, math, English, etc. That's also 35% off this week. We offer something called All Access Pass, which gives you unlimited access to all of our courses all the way until your student graduates high school. You also get access to me directly through these monthly mentorship mastermind sessions. So I go through career help, productivity help, time management help, and scholarship help. That's another big one with the monthly sessions. And then finally, we also do offer college admissions consulting with our incredible admissions consulting team for college application strategy and essay assistance. You can see all of the options, pricing, and course schedules at prepexpert.com. We have schedules starting every single week. We have over 150 some courses, Saturday, Sunday courses, Monday, Wednesday courses, summer courses, fall courses, spring courses. We have a course that will work for your child. And as I mentioned, to celebrate Book Launch Week, we're offering 35% off all Prep Expert courses and tutoring. And I have more good news. So a lot of good news today. More good news is we're offering some free bonus gifts. So 35% off is of course nice, but some free bonus gifts as well, especially for everyone who attended live today. Do you guys want to know what you're going to get for attending live for absolutely free? Awesome. So as a thank you for attending, you will get the following. You'll get free Prep Expert Academic Success Masterclass. It's a $399 value. It's on how to ace any standardized test. It's taught by me. It's a video course. You can go through it. It'll give you a lot of great test-taking strategies. Get it for free just for coming today. You'll get free bonus chapters that are not in the Prep Expert Digital SAT Playbook. You'll get free test day checklists and cheat sheets for the digital SAT. That'll be super helpful for students who have an upcoming digital SAT. You'll get free practice tests for the digital SAT, as I know many parents and students are looking for more practice questions, more practice tests. You'll get that free as well. Those are all the goodies you get for attending today. The bonuses will be delivered to your email tomorrow. So keep an eye on your email for those free bonuses. You'll get those just for coming today. I really appreciate you guys all coming live on this Sunday, March 3rd. Thank you. We got some more free bonuses. So you can also get 5 academic success masterclasses when you buy 2 or more books. So maybe you want to buy a book for both of your children. Maybe you want to buy the paperback and the audiobook to listen while you're reading. Maybe you want to buy the ebook and the paperback. Maybe you're a teacher and you want to buy it for all your students. If you buy 2 or more books, you will get access to our masterclass package, which is actually 5 master classes. It's not only how to ace any standardized test, but you also get how to improve time management, how to increase productivity, how to study effectively, and how to succeed in college. All right, so that's a $2,000 value that you get for free when you buy 2 or more books. All you need to do is email your order receipt to playbook@prepexpert.com. Our customer experience team will verify you bought 2 or more books, and we will send you the masterclass package for free as a bonus gift. This is limited, though. It's limited to the first 500 customers who purchase 2 or more books to get that academic success masterclass package. And we have one more bonus for you guys, which is really cool. We have a Founders Edition of Prep Expert Digital SAT Playbook. And what's different about the Founders Edition is it's not only this nice orange hardcover, but it has a golden ticket inside with my personal email address, as well as a code word to make sure that I high prioritize anyone with a Founders Edition email, where you can ask me questions anytime in high school related to college admissions, test prep, or scholarships. So you have direct access to me with this Founders Edition, and that's free when you buy any Prep Expert course or tutoring package. So if you buy any Prep Expert course or tutoring package, you get this special Founders Edition that you cannot buy anywhere else. It contains my email with a code word to ask me questions anytime. Now, what's nice is Prep Expert courses and tutoring are, again, 35% off until Saturday, March 9th, so you can get this Founders Edition with it. However, it's limited to the first 100 customers who buy a Prep Expert course or tutoring package, because I don't want to be bombarded by email. So we got 100 people that can get the Founders Edition, and you'll get that for free for the first 100 who buy a Prep Expert course or tutoring package. So did everyone like those bonus gifts? Everyone is good with that before we go into some success stories? Hopefully you guys will really enjoy those free bonuses. Awesome. Someone said you're amazing for helping our students. You're very welcome. All right, so let's go through some success stories. Like, what will happen for your student if they, enroll in a Prep Expert course or, get the new Prep Expert Digital SAT Playbook? What are the results you can expect? Well, let me share some success stories. So here's Michael Kwok. He was actually the first student who ever enrolled in a Prep Expert course. So he holds a very special place in my heart for that reason. And it's kind of funny, the first person who ever enrolled in a course actually got accepted to the Ivy League at the University of Pennsylvania. And he said, I took the Prep Expert SAT class and my score improved by 350 points. I consistently recommend Prep Expert's methods over huge brands like Kaplan or Princeton Review. And what's really cool about Michael is he now owns his own design consulting firm, so he's become quite the entrepreneur himself. Here's another example of Neil. He got a perfect SAT score. He said, or actually his mom said, Carolyn said, we were all floored when his scores came in last month and he scored perfect. This SAT preparation book was the only one he used. So that's pretty amazing, right? A perfect SAT score, as I mentioned, there's only about 10,000 people with that, and Neil's one of them. He used my book to do it, and he's now a developer tech engineer at NVIDIA. If you know anything about NVIDIA, their stock has like 20x'd over the past 5 years, and Neil's been there for 5 years, so I'm sure he's responsible for a lot of their success. Here's another student, Alexis. She got a $100,000 scholarship. I could read her testimonial, but I think it's better if you just hear it directly from her.
For taking Prep Expert, my SAT score increased 300 points.
With my SAT score, I got a full scholarship for $250,000.
We signed him up, and from day one class, he was very excited, loved every minute of it.
After taking Prep Expert, I got 3 full-ride scholarships worth over $500,000.
So after my son and daughter both took the Prep Expert courses, the great thing is basically combined, they got over $500,000 in scholarships.
All right. So that wasn't just Alexis, obviously. That was multiple of our parents and students at Prep Expert. But I shouldn't say Alexis either. It's now Dr. Hiltz. She's a dermatologist herself, and I'm very proud of her for selecting the best medical specialty, in my opinion. Sorry to the other physicians watching and in the room, but we all know dermatology offers the best work-life balance, and I know that, given I am one. But I'm just trying to show you guys all of the different successes that our students have, not only on the SAT, but later on in their lives. So, just to recap everything, because I know there were a lot of promotions and bonuses, here's everything that we're offering today. We have 3 book launch promotions. The first is 35% off all of our books and courses. To grab those promotions, you just go to prepexpert.com. This promotion for 35% off does expire, though, on Saturday, March 9th. After that, you'll have to pay full price. We do have a free bonus of 5 academic success masterclasses. That's a $2,000 value when you buy 2 or more copies of the book. However, it's limited to the first 500 people who buy 2 or more copies and email their order receipt to playbook@prepexpert.com. And the last bonus is if you want direct access to me, you can get the Founders Edition with my contact information, and that's limited to the first 100 customers who buy a Prep Expert course or tutoring package. All right? And so, how do you get all those bonuses and launch promotions? Head over to prepexpert.com. You could scan the QR code here for direct links and 35% off coupon codes on all of our books and courses. This offer, as I mentioned, expires in 1 week, so you have about a week. You have a little bit less time if you're going for one of those bonuses that's limited to the first 500 or limited to 100, but it's all at prepexpert.com. When you go there, you'll see a screen like this, and you'll be able to either lock in your 35% off book or view the 35% off courses. You can look at our other courses, tutoring, ACT, whatever you'd like, and that's all 35% off until March 9th. So, I know many of you are thinking, well, you showed a lot of case studies and testimonials from people who took your old paper-based SAT stuff. How do we know that your new digital SAT stuff actually works, right? Anyone curious about that? Type a yes in the chat if you're wondering if the new digital SAT curriculum actually works. Raise your hand if you're curious. Yeah? Yeah, it's a different exam. How can we be sure that, you're the guy? Well, I'm really excited to announce that our first pilot digital SAT courses just ended. So we had a cohort of students who finished our 6-week, 7-week, and 8-week courses starting in January that finished right before this March 9th digital SAT. So let's see what they said about the course. Well, this student said, uniquely instructive. After taking this course, not only am I more confident and prepared to tackle the SAT, but I feel like I have an edge that enables me to succeed on the SAT and in life. A standout aspect of the program was my instructor, Ilya. And it's not Ilya, it's actually Dr. Kolmogorov. He's a PhD in linguistics. And that really is one of the standout aspects of Prep Expert courses is our super high-level instructors who have not only scored in the 99th percentile, who not only have hundreds, if not thousands of hours of teaching experience, but are often doctors like myself or Ilya, or I should say Dr. Kolmogorov, right, teaching your student. Here's another student who said, I took the 6-week prep course, and I started off with a 900, and my final score was 1,200. That's pretty crazy, guys. 6 weeks, and you got a 300-point boost, right? And I bring this testimonial up for a specific reason, because a lot of people think Prep Expert is just for 99th percentile scorers or perfect scorers, but it works for average students or even below average students. This student started off at a 900. An average score on the SAT is 1,000. And they went up to 1,200 in 6 weeks, completely changing their college and scholarship opportunities, right? They even said, I learned about myself and how seriously I take my academics. Parents, how valuable would it be for your student to take academics more seriously in 6 weeks? Here's another student who said, my score improved 380 points from the start, and all of the content was very helpful and absolutely proved to work. They also said the entire course was very organized, super organized, and well put together. Well, thank you, Gabriel, because I organized the course and put it together. And so thank you very much. 380 points in 6 weeks. Again, incredible on this new digital SAT. Here's another student who said, my score improved from a 1330 to a 1540. I could not be more grateful. Think about that, 1330 to 1540, that's 210 points into the 99th percentile. But then they say, however, however usually means bad in a review. However, the unexpected result of this course was the improvement, not only in my score, but also in my writing abilities and problem-solving skills. I now grasp material in school faster, and I spend less time studying for exams. How valuable is that you can write better, problem solve better, and study better as well, just from an SAT course, right? And here's one more from a student who actually was in my course. I taught a 7-week course. And he says, Dr. Sean Patel's Prep Expert All Access Pass is nothing short of exceptional. As an instructor with a perfect SAT score and a personal history of overcoming score challenges, his credibility is unmatched. Under Dr. Patel's guidance, I experienced an impressive 500-point improvement with over 200 points gained within the 7-week Founders Digital SAT course. That's amazing. 500 points. And I promise I didn't pay this student to write all this. I mean, these students are having an amazing, amazing score improvement on this brand new digital SAT. So was that pretty cool, by the way? Was that pretty cool to see students and their score improvements? All right. So now, I know that many people have questions. I've been seeing you guys type questions in the chat all presentation long. I'm so sorry I won't have time to answer your questions because we literally have thousands of people who are here. If I answered your questions, we'd be here all night. So I anticipated that, and I recorded an FAQ video that answers your most frequently asked questions, because I'm sure many parents and students watching are wondering, should my child take the SAT or the ACT? When should my child start their test prep? How do your digital SAT courses exactly work? So I recorded an FAQ video. You can find it right on the homepage of prepexpert.com. Watch that video. You'll be able to see the answers to all of those questions. Just click Watch Digital SAT FAQ video right there at the bottom. If you want to talk to a live person, click this button on the right side that says Text Us. My customer experience team is here in Las Vegas with me, and they were super nice. They offered to work late on a Sunday, so they'll be available to text with over the next hour if you have specific questions related to test prep, college admission scholarships, any of our courses. Just click that Text Us button, but they're only available for about the next hour because it's Sunday, but they'll be back Monday morning as well. But if you want to get someone live, you actually can for today's book launch event, which is really cool. Now, I am a little bit worried that we could go out of stock. And the reason for that is I asked our publisher, what happens if I do a book launch event and there's 10,000 people and they all want to buy the book? Like, can we run out of books? Well, this is what our publisher said. He said, during periods of high demand, such as the release of a highly anticipated book, the volume of orders could exceed the immediate printing capacity if the printing facilities are operating at maximum capacity. So here's why that might happen. There's 10,000 people registered here for today's book launch event. 20,000 people will watch the replay. We are streaming to 10 platforms like Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter. We are streaming to Shopify's Shop app, which has 100 million shoppers. Mark Cuban will be promoting this book launch event and promotion to his 10 million social media followers. We'll be promoting this to our 200,000 Prep Expert social media followers across all platforms. We'll be sending this out very shortly, I think like in 2 minutes, to an email audience of over 100,000. And so I highly recommend you head over to prepexpert.com before we run out of books and we run out of course spots. because you're first. Because you came to this book launch event live, you got first dibs on the books, on the best course schedules, etc. And so I highly recommend head over to prepexpert.com or scan the QR code. You'll get the direct links and the 35% off coupon codes on all books and courses. The offer expires on Saturday, March 9th. Now, before I go for the evening, I want to leave you guys with one more thing. So I want to share with all of you my favorite framework for success, because it's made a difference in my life, and I hope that it makes a difference in many of the lives of parents and students here. And I can't take credit for this framework of success. It's from the Stanford Graduate School of Business by a professor named Graham Weaver, and it's called How to Live an Asymmetric Life. What is an asymmetric life? An asymmetric life is one in which you have limited downside risk, but you have unlimited upside potential for success. And there, in his lecture, he describes 4 principles for success to live an asymmetric life. And these principles are very simple, but they are also very powerful. If you follow them, you will have asymmetric, unlimited success in your lives. So what are the principles? The first principle is do hard things. That means to do the difficult thing, to do the thing that most people won't do. That means to study for the exam, to write the code, to go to the gym. Whatever discipline you want success in, you must do the hard thing. The second principle is to do your thing. And everyone thinks doing your thing means to follow your passion, but that's not what it means. That means to do the thing that you are exceptionally good at. The problem is no one is good at something the first time they do it. And so you must fail, you will have setbacks, and you must persevere and have resilience despite all that. And eventually, if you continue, you will find the thing that you are exceptionally good at. The third principle is to do it for decades. And no one wants to hear this in our society of instant gratification. But if you want unbelievable success in life, you must do it for years, if not decades. And eventually, you will achieve the pinnacles of success. And the fourth principle is to write your story. Write your story means that you must write down the actual outcomes that you want to achieve. You must crystallize it and visualize it in your mind and on paper. In chapter 1 of Prep Expert Digital SAT Playbook, it is called The Journey. And in that chapter, I have a blank page in which I instruct students to write down the exact SAT score they would like to achieve, to write down the exact colleges they would like to receive admission into, to write down the exact scholarship amounts they would like to receive. And the reason I do this is because I know, even if the students don't know yet, that by writing their story at the beginning of their journey, they will have an exponentially higher probability of achieving success, not only on the SAT, but in all of their academic life. And so I hope that today's book launch presentation was useful. I hope that today is the first step in your students' journey, not only to success on the SAT, but into all of their academics, into their future careers, and life beyond. So thank you all for attending. I really appreciate you guys coming live, both in studio and online. Whether you end up purchasing a Prep Expert book or course or not, I absolutely wish you the best of luck in your journey on test preparation, college admissions, scholarships, and beyond. Thank you. So did you guys enjoy the presentation? Thank you guys so much for coming today.